Welcome, everybody. I'm Evelyn Vega. I am past president of the AMA Phoenix chapter, and I currently serve as their interim VP of volunteers and career development. So I want to welcome everybody for coming to this timely topic. Everyone's like, what do I need to do? It's the beginning of the year. Let's revamp our resume. And we have a fabulous presenter today, Amanda Miller. She's presented to us in the past, for us in the past. She's also a great supporter of AMA Phoenix and serves on our career development committee. So if you haven't yet, introduce yourself via the chat, link in with everybody. I always say, your network could never be too big. You need to use your network to network on finding job opportunities, maybe getting some more resume advice. So do that for us. What we'll do is I'm going to introduce Amanda, and then at the end, we'll have some Q&A with Amanda. So keep those questions going at the end. And then at the end, we'll kind of go over what we're doing with AMA this year and some of our upcoming events. So again, Evelyn Vega, I'm past president of the AMA Phoenix chapter, and I'm honored to present our presenter today, Amanda Miller. Amanda's been supporting job seekers for nearly 3 decades and is passionate about all the work that she does. She's been honored to help thousands of people enhance their personal brand, either through their resume, a cover letter, LinkedIn optimization. She also does job coaching and whatnot. Amanda stays current in her industry through active participation in Career Directors International, National Resume Writers Association, and Resume Writers and Coaches Association, where she serves as the vice president for that organization. Her goal in 2024 is to complete her to compile all of her years of experience into a book that will further support job seekers. While not working, Amanda is an avid fitness buff and has taken on a challenge this year to hike 365 miles in 365 days. Good for you, Amanda. She also enjoys her robust collection of pulp culture memorabilia, namely Wonder Woman. Who doesn't love Wonder Woman, right? And The Little Mermaid. So everyone, please join me in welcoming Amanda Miller. Thanks, Amanda.
Hello. Hello. Thank you so much for having me here today. I love, love, love educating people and sharing information. So I am super excited to share this with you. 2024 is underway, as we know, and I want, if you are looking for a job or considering even moving up within your industry or your company, having these tools will really help you. And some of this, even if you're a business owner, can help you with your building your business, because as we were mentioning before everybody joined, sometimes when you put in an RFP, you might need a resume, but also LinkedIn is an excellent tool, networking, all of those things are the things that we're going to cover today. So let's get to it. So as you learned a little bit about me, I am super passionate about what I do. I can't believe I've been doing this for almost 30 years. It scares me sometimes to think that. But it's something that I would do if people didn't pay me. I absolutely love what I do and writing resumes and helping people to accelerate their careers. I almost never have to get a new job because I'm living vicariously through everybody I work with. So it's kind of cool. I really like it. So today, this is what I'm going to impart with you, hopefully. We're going to talk about basically how to get it together. I was reviewing my slides before joining the webinar today, and I realized that at least 3 say to prepare. So this will hopefully help you to prepare. You want to have a game plan. And so we're going to start at the beginning with launching your career search and what do you need to do to get that going. Of course, your resume, which is one of the biggest, most important tools in your toolbox. LinkedIn, can't say enough about LinkedIn. Most people are underutilizing it. How to network, which LinkedIn, of course, is, but I'm talking more like networking in person, going through your interview, and then, of course, hopefully landing multiple job offers and getting a job. So let's take this one at a time. Talk about your career search. So first, before you launch a career search, this is probably the most important thing you need to do is figure out what you want to be when you grow up. And maybe when you grow up is a little too far in the future. Maybe it's next week. What do you want to get next week? Maybe you have a long-term goal and a now goal. That's okay, but you need to determine what that is. Do you want to work remotely, in person, or have a hybrid type of position? All of those are available today, and that has helped and hindered the job search because Whereas we used to have a limit of in-person jobs and people would maybe drive 30 or 40 miles to get to work. Now so many are remote and you're competing with people, around the country, sometimes around the globe. So it can definitely make it a little bit more challenging. So that's something to consider. Of course, researching positions that might work for you if you're not sure what you want to do. What is that title that I like? There are lots of places to look. Again, LinkedIn is a great place for that. And then determining how that job you're looking for aligns with who you are as a person and what your values and goals are. And if you are looking to, if you've just recently graduated college, or if you're looking to switch industries or disciplines, leveraging those transferable skills that will help you to really move your career forward. Here's one of those prepare slides. So you want to make sure that you're prepared. You need to track what you're doing. I suggest that people create an Excel sheet, that they make different folders for each position and how they're following up. So you know what resume you sent, you know what cover letter you sent, you know what the job description is. You want to make sure you're connecting with recruiters. Again, LinkedIn, huge for that. Choose those references and get them together because at some point, someone's going to ask you for, hey, can you share some references? You need to have those at the ready. And then you also, of course, want to stay focused on your goal. Sometimes in a job search, it can be challenging. It can be disheartening. It could be, really just ego biting because you got rejected or am I qualified? So you want to stay focused on that. Of course, take the moment to grieve and oh, I didn't get this, but then jump right back on that wagon and get moving towards your goal. So now that you have your career goal in order, again, your most important tool in your toolbox is probably your resume. So we're going to spend a little time on that. Your resume has to be for two different audiences. First is the ATS system. ATS stands for Applicant Tracking Software. And most of us are applying for positions online these days. So that means that on the flip side of your application going through, it's typically going through some kind of a system that is going to review your document. So you need to make sure that it's a simple format. It doesn't have the things that won't transfer through, such as headers and footers can't be read, text boxes can't be read, images and graphics can't be read. And sometimes ATS systems have a challenge with tables and graphs, or excuse me, tables and columns. Graphs cannot be read. So it's important that you're sure that you know what it is that you're including and that you're being really smart about building that resume that's going to get through ATS. Then, of course, you want to make sure that it's intriguing for employers. Employers and recruiters spend, and I'm not making this up, this was a study by LinkedIn, they spend about 7 to 10 seconds on a first review of a resume. So they're not reading it word for word, I guarantee you. So you want to make sure that you have all of your information from about the last 10 to 15 years. There are some exceptions, but about 10 to 15 years on 1 to 2 pages. You don't want to submit a 4-page resume of the last 30 years of your work. It needs to be quick and scannable. And then there are certainly different formats for resumes, but because we're working toward getting it through ATS, you need to use a reverse chronological order, which basically means I'm currently doing this, before that I did this, and before that I did this. That way it gets through the ATS system. ATS systems are not like people, they're very linear, and so they need to see how things connect. And people are very literal, linear as well. Whew, tongue twister. Okay, some components that you want to think about in your resume. And these are typically in the order that you'll see on someone who has experience. If you are a new grad, education would move up. And you always want to think about, we read top to bottom, left to right. So a resume truly is a marketing document that lets people know why you're a valuable asset that they should be talking to. So the first thing you want to have is your contact information. And you might think, well, that's a no-brainer, but I can't tell you how many resumes I've seen that people don't have contact information. So your contact information should absolutely include your name, your phone number, your email address, your LinkedIn URL. So create a custom URL and do that and put that on there. And then preferably your city and state. You don't need to have your full address, although some ATS systems will ask for that when you apply online. You'll see that they're asking for it. But typically your city and state are just fine. A title or a headline, Objectives are gone. Times they're in the dinosaur times. We don't use objectives anymore. Title or headline says exactly what you're looking for. Your summary or branding statement. This is where you answer the question, why should I hire you? Your areas of expertise. This is a sneaky way to get in keywords, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. Your professional experience, again, in that reverse chronological approach. Your education, and then anything extra you have, like licenses and certifications, memberships. Some people have patents or presentations. All of that stuff comes toward the end. So because you're trying to get through an ATS system, you must make sure that your resume has the appropriate keywords. That means that it has to be tailored every single time you apply. I had someone I was working with, and she said, well, do I have to do it every time? I don't have time to update my resume every time I apply. I said, do you want a job? Because if you don't want a job, then don't bother. But if you do want to be found by ATS, you need to update your title, your summary, and your areas of expertise every time you apply to a different position. You don't have to change the entire resume. And truly, this should only take about 5 to 10 minutes. It's very quick, it's very simple. You can pull the keywords from the job description. And if you get stuck and go, I don't know what the keywords are, I highly recommend you leverage ChatGPT and put the job description in there and say, hey, ChatGPT, can you give me 15 to 17, 18 words that will help my resume be found that are in this description? And it'll provide you with some ideas. It's not always 100% accurate, but at least it gives you a launch point to think about. Now, if you've looked at your resume and you're looking at your experience section and it's loaded with bullets, and they're usually tasks. I did this, I did that, I did this, I was responsible for that. Responsible for is a bane of my existence because it really just means that you were supposed to do it. It doesn't mean that you actually did it. So you want to have a breakdown of what you did. You certainly do need and want to have that on your resume, but you want to focus more on accomplishment. Most times when people are looking at your resume, the title connotes what you do. They're really only looking at what you did to get maybe specifics. For instance, if someone was in HR, how many employees did you have oversight for? Or if you're in marketing, as many of you probably are, what was your budget? What was your team like? What kinds of marketing things did you do? That's all important to include. And that goes into a brief paragraph under each position. But that should be followed by accomplishments. So this is the formula that you'll use to think about accomplishments. I've always liked CAR. You may like STAR or SAR. They're all the same, but CAR is challenge, action, result. And so you'll think about, what challenge did I face? What action did I take to overcome that challenge? And what was the result that came out of that action? In my experience, which is vast, I usually see accomplishments in one of four areas. Either you made somebody money, that could be the company, it could be a stakeholder, it's usually not you. You saved somebody money, same people. You made those people happy, or you increased productivity or efficiency. And then when you put this on the resume, and as I alluded to before, when I'm all done, I will show you an example of a resume so you can kind of see how this looks in action. But on the resume, you want to front load those because people are spending seconds with your resume. So you want to use those action verbs in your bullets: increased, reduced, saved, overcame, those kinds of things that say, hey, I'm an accomplishment, pay attention to me. Obviously, numbers are really great if you have them, but numbers aren't as important as having that result. So if you have qualitative of accomplishments, that's great. Some people do have quantitative, especially in sales, but I've been in marketing a long time and it's hard to know exactly how many people came to the website, right? You know that you got an increase in people to the website because you built a website or you wrote the content or you did a strategy, but can you really say how many? Sometimes you can, sometimes you can't. If it's your own company, you might be able to tell. But oftentimes, as marketers, we're brought in to do the thing and then you give it back and you don't know what the results are. So you just have an idea and it's anecdotal. That's okay. It doesn't have to be numbers. So don't get stuck on that if you don't know the numbers. If you do, awesome, more power to you. But if you don't, that's okay as well. Okay, now that you have a resume started, getting moving, Now you want to look at LinkedIn, which is, again, I cannot say enough how important LinkedIn is. So you want to make sure, and again, if you're not looking for a job, this is still super important. So zone back in because LinkedIn is great for building a business, networking, meeting the right people, all that stuff. Super important. So you want to make sure that you have a stellar profile. That includes compelling images. So the image of yourself should be you, smiling, happy, ready to say hello to people. A nice background image, which ideally will be branded. So branded to the company you work for, or if you own your own company, branded to you. A fallback is something else. Like right now, I have a picture behind me of a hike. It's a view from a hike that I did. I hike a lot and I talk about it a lot on LinkedIn. So people really like that stuff from me. It's not getting me any business, but it's building me relationships. And that's really what LinkedIn is about. You also need to make sure that you have a keyword rich headline and summary. So just like your resume uses keywords to get through ATS systems, LinkedIn is at its core a search engine. So you need to have the right keywords to help you be found. And that when people are looking for you, unless they have your name in front of them or your resume, they're typically looking for someone who does what you do. So you need to have those keywords in your headline and summary so that you can be found. It should complement your resume. You don't want people to look at your resume and then at your LinkedIn and go, wait, are these the same people? You want them to have the same information. Now, you're limited on your resume, 1 to 2 pages, but on LinkedIn, each position you can have about 2,000 characters. That's a lot. So you could really get a lot more on there, which could lead to a portfolio. So if you are, I mean, I'm a writer. I have a lot of writing samples on my portfolio on LinkedIn because then that I can just send people there and say, hey, take a look. I've got lots of stuff there. I have testimonials from people that have liked what I've done. So it's a lot more robust than your resume is. And it also is a way, again, to build relationships. So while I wouldn't say on my resume my interests like hiking and Wonder Woman, on my LinkedIn profile, I have a lot of that because it's how I build those connections with people. As far as open to work, if you are open to work and your boss, or you don't have a boss, you're unemployed currently, or your boss knows that you're open to work, by all means, leverage that open to work option. If you are open to work, but nobody knows that you are and your boss doesn't know you're looking, you can still turn on open to work, but you can make it so that only recruiters can see that and it won't put that green banner around your name. It's a lot safer option if you don't want, all of a sudden your boss comes to your page and goes, hey, I didn't know that Amanda was open to work. Well, you might lose your job, right? You might really be open to work then. So just be really aware of that. But when you do put on your open to work, it's kind of been a talk on LinkedIn lately that a lot of recruiters that I've seen will reach out to people who say they're open to work first because they know that these people need a job. So it's something that you can absolutely leverage to get more connections and to get more opportunities. Because LinkedIn is a search engine, you can do so much research on there. You can certainly pay for LinkedIn if you choose, but everything I'm telling you, you can do without the premium option. So you can research industries that you might want to work in. You can research companies, people, I had someone I was working with who was interested in getting a job at SRP. Well, SRP is a very large company. It's very hard to get in there. So what I suggested she do is she was a project manager, look at people who were project managers at SRP and start to connect with them and then learn about the industry. She did that. It helped her to learn more about who she should talk to about applying, what strategies she should use when applying, why she might want to work there, who key decision makers were. Super helpful to do that. Then, of course, connecting with a purpose with those people or other people. You can connect with pretty much anybody, people who are in your industry, outside of your industry, people who might be good clients for you or good employers for you, people you meet while networking. I mean, I encourage you while I'm chatting with you to put your LinkedIn link into the chat and connect with these people because this is your audience. You don't know who you don't know, right? LinkedIn is a series of 3 connections deep. So if I'm connected with Joe and Joe is connected with Sally, Sally's now my second connection. If Sally's connected with George, George is my third connection. I can see all of those people's connections because of mine. So because if I have 500 connections, I don't just have 500 people on my network. I have my 500 plus the networks of all of those 500 people, and then all of their second degree people, which make them my third. So I've got a huge network, and that's how you build your network. Now, of course, you can apply for jobs on LinkedIn because they're there, but no matter where you find a job, this is the golden nugget for today. So pay attention. When you apply for a job, go to LinkedIn and look for the recruiter, talent manager, or the person who has the position above you and reach out to them. Sometimes on LinkedIn, you'll see who posted the job, and that makes it a heck of a lot easier. You just reach out to that person. Sometimes you don't, but they're always going to be on LinkedIn. Someone posted that job. I'll give you another story. I'm good with stories. I have lots of stuff to tell you. One of the people I was working with was applying for jobs. And at that point, LinkedIn was saying how many people had applied. Now it just says more than 100, but it said 800 people had applied. The person was qualified, had the ATS friendly resume that I had written, applied for the position, and then he reached out. He did a little research, looked up the company, looked up people under that company, put in talent, found a person. He didn't know if that was the person who'd posted the job, but he still reached out to her, made a connection request, and said, "Hey, Sally," let's just say her name was, "Hey, Sally, I see that you've been with this company for 6 months. I'm super excited about joining this company too. I just applied for this position. I'd love to learn more about you." Sally called him the next day for an interview. That would not have happened had he not reached out to that person. So just applying and wishing and hoping and praying is not going to be nearly as effective as following up and reaching out. And then, oh, by the way, follow up like a week after. Hey, just wanted to let you know I'm still very interested in this position. Did you need anything? I'd love to connect with you. So it really makes the world a lot flatter. Another way to connect with people, obviously, is in person. Networking is a huge opportunity to meet the right people who might either be able to give you a job or introduce you to people who could. So there are lots of places to network. I'm not going to read this list for you. This is not even an exhaustive list. You can network when you're at the grocery store, at a happy hour event, your kid's birthday party or football game. You can network anywhere. When you network, you need to make sure that you are focused, friendly, and not always asking for things. Because, the worst part when you go networking is someone's like, "Oh, hi, I'm looking for a job. Do you know anybody who's hiring?" You can't really help those people, nor do you want to. You want to have some skin in the game first. So when you go to network, you want to be prepared, right? You want to have a game plan. So choose the group that's right for you. Are you more of a mingler? Is an evening event better? Do you prefer to network over a meal with a small table of people? Do you want to go to a conference and meet hundreds of people? Just depends on what you're looking at. You have to have the right attitude. If I am going to a networking event and I have it on my calendar, I'm like, ugh, I just don't feel it. I won't go because it's no sense in going. It's just wasted energy and I'm not excited about it. But when I go, I'm like, woohoo, I'm going to meet people. If you're an introvert, take somebody with you, someone who can help you to make those introductions. And then you kind of act like a living testimonial for each other. You definitely want to have a goal when you go out and network. That might be that you're going to have meaningful conversations with 3 people, with 5 people, or that you're going to meet a specific person and try to reach that person. Especially at a conference, that works really well if you want to meet a specific person because you have an idea who's going to be there. You also need to have an answer for usually the first question that they ask because you're wearing a name badge. They know your name. So, Amanda, what do you do? You need to have a good response for that. As a job seeker, if you are in an active job search and it's not going to hurt your current job, then you want to be very proactive. You don't want to sound like a sad case. Well, I'm currently in between jobs. Nope, that's not what you want. I'm currently looking for a position and I'm targeting these types of companies, this industry, or this company specifically? That's how specific you want to be. Because when you are, people don't understand what you do. So the best example I've heard of this is IT, because most of us don't know what IT people do. And one person was in a group event. This is someone else was facilitating this. And he said, "What are you looking for?" And the guy stood up and said, "I'm looking for a position as a DBA." And then a bunch of gobbledygook. And the guy said, "What? Looking for a position as a DBA? Gobbledygook." And the facilitator said, "Okay, tell me where you're looking to apply." "Oh, that's easy. I'm looking at hospitality. They really use a lot of my stuff, and I'm really looking at the Marriott." In that room, somebody knew the HR for Marriott. There was a connection made, but they didn't understand what DBA meant or what they were looking for. So when you can get very specific, and people are not going to go, "Oh, you want to work at Marriott?" "Well, I don't know anybody at Marriott." But they know somebody at Hilton. They're going to expand. They're going to extrapolate because people naturally want to help you, but you have to give them some ideas on how. So by telling them what industry, what company, or what types of company, along with the position you're looking for, that really helps them to help you better. You also want to get out of conversations. So a really great way to do that, if you're realizing that this is just going on and on, people are there to meet other people. So all you have to say is, "It's been great chatting with you. I know you want to meet other people. I need to go meet other people. So you enjoy the rest of the event." And you just walk away. It's easy. You don't have to be rude. You don't have to just turn your head. But what you do need to do is give that person who's in front of you your full attention while you're talking to them. Don't talk to them and keep looking over. "Oh, wait, is that so and so? Oh, is so and so over here?" Pay full attention to them. If you happen to see someone you want to talk to out of the corner of your eye, that's when you make that graceful exit. "Oh, it's been great talking to you. I just saw someone that I'd love to go meet. Can I introduce you? Or do you want to go meet other people?" So that's a good way to do it. And then follow up is key. So while you're following up after you apply for positions, you also need to make sure you follow up after you meet people. You can do that on LinkedIn. It's a great way to do it, but not everybody's on LinkedIn all the time. So I highly recommend you send an email as well. If you don't have a great memory, carry your phone or a notepad or something. Take little notes about them, maybe put it on their business card or in a note-taking device, and say what you talked about. "Hey, John, it was so great to meet you at the event last night. I'm so excited about your son. You told me he was going to be in a football game this week, and I hope it goes really great." People love it when you remember stuff about them. So if you can bring something to the conversation, then they'll remember you better. And then you can go into just to remind you a little bit about myself. I'm currently looking for a position as this. If it's someone that you want to follow up with and have coffee or something, then by all means, give them a phone call. We tend to be afraid of calling people in this society, but it's okay. Give them a call. Say, "Hey, you were mentioning to me this. I'd love to chat more about that." When you put it on them to say you want to learn more about them, most people are very gracious and want to talk about themselves. But when you ask them, "Hey, you mentioned you know so and so, can you get an introduction?" Sometimes they will, sometimes they won't. It depends on how well they know you. So start to build that relationship. Think of networking as a relationship builder. And then, of course, once you get all of those relationships, you've started sending resumes. Now you got to do the interviewing, right? And the interviewing is where a lot of people get confused and stuck and don't know what to do. Let me just tell you, if you are getting interviews, your resume is probably working. If you're not getting job offers, probably your interviewing skills. So you want to look at those. I've seen many people say, "Well, I'm not getting offers. I'm getting tons of interviews. I need a new resume." Probably not your resume. Your resume's only goal is to get you an interview. Your job is to turn that interview into an opportunity. So you need to become knowledgeable in the company, the position, the people who work there. And again, you need to prepare. I told you there were many slides on this about preparing. You have to be prepared for your interview, whether it's online like we are today, or it's in person, or it's on the phone. You need to make sure that you have the skills and wherewithal to be able to talk about the position, about the company, and about yourself. And we'll go over some questions. You'll want to have your portfolio prepared if it's appropriate. For some people it is, some people it isn't. If you've built some great websites or done some right, content, or you want a Spectrum Award and you want to showcase that, those are the things that you want to have available. You can have them printed out if you meet someone in person. You can have them on your website, or excuse me, on your computer if you're meeting like this, and be ready to pull them up. You want to make sure, of course, that you're dressed for the part. So if you're just seeing this part of you, make sure that that looks professional. If they're seeing all of you, make sure that you all look professional. Wear pants. People often will get up during a video call and all of a sudden they just have on underwear or nothing, and they just forget. Wear pants. It's just good practice. Test your technology. Look behind you if you're not going to use a screen. Most of us do use some kind of a Zoom background, but if you're not, just make sure it looks professional. I mean, I have a nice background, but I have a cat next to me. Like, do I want my cat to be in my interview? Probably not, right? And then start to practice some of those questions that you want to ask and that you will be asked. So here are some questions that typically get asked. I can't guarantee you what will be asked, but these are some standard ones that most people ask at some point in the conversation. Very, very standard. One of the first questions is, tell me a little bit about yourself. This is where most people get tripped up, because when you're asked, tell me about yourself, most people think personal, right? Oh, well, I love Wonder Woman and I hike all the time, and interview for a job. They're not hiring me because I love Wonder Woman and hike all the time. They want to know why I'm sitting there, why I'm talking to them. What do I bring to the table? What is my value add? Now, if you want to add something else that's fun about yourself, by all means, but that's not why they're hiring you. They're hiring you because you can do the job. So you want to say, well, I have, a depth of experience in this. In my most recent position, I was able to do this, and then bring it back to them. Because just like people like to talk about themselves, employers like you to talk about their company. So the reason I'm, here today is because I'm super excited about what you're doing at this company or how I'll fit with your company. So that's a really great answer to tell me about yourself. What are your strengths and weaknesses? A lot of people think, well, I'm not going to get asked this question. And a lot of times you won't. A lot of people won't ask it. But if they do, just have it in the back of your mind. If it's a weakness that you're picking on, make sure that you don't pick on something that they consider a strength and requirement for the job. Like, you're applying for a position in digital marketing. I really don't know a lot about digital. I'm not really good on PPC. Well, then you're not going to get the job, right? So if you have a weakness, that's fine, but turn it around to a strength if at all possible. So my weakness is, I have a hard time with prioritizing things. But what I've done in the most recent past is I've incorporated some technology to help me prioritize. So I have a calendaring system, that kind of stuff, right? You're giving them a solution. Why do you want to work here? What is it about that company that interests you? This is where that research is going to help, that people have been there a long amount of time, that the company's doing something you're excited about, you share the vision, that kind of stuff. Where do you see yourself in 5 years? Obviously, you don't want to say, oh, I want your job, but you want to say something like, I'm excited to stay here and be in this company and grow and learn. Tell me about a time when questions are an excellent opportunity to share your accomplishments. So tell me about a time when is usually followed by either a challenge or a win. So the challenge would be like, tell me about a time when you were working with a customer and you just could not make them happy. Who hasn't had that, right? So then you give them what that situation was like. This is what happened. This is the action I took. And here's the result. Again, it's the same as that accomplishment. Telling stories in your interview makes you three-dimensional. It engages people. I mean, why do you think I'm telling you stories about people I've worked with? Because if you see a real life example, it's much more exciting than just saying, oh, do this, or oh, I did that. No one gets engaged with that. So tell them that story about the thing that you did and how you overcame that challenge. Sometimes they'll ask, tell me about a time when you were super proud of yourself. That's an accomplishment, right? That's a result. So that's a great thing. Also, still the accomplishment. Well, I had this problem I was working with, and I was able to bring the right people together and do all the things. And then I got it, the result, and I won a Spectrum Award, and oh, I was so proud of myself, right? You want to have those stories available. And then, of course, why should we hire you? Not, I have a sense of humor, so I'm usually because I'm awesome. Why wouldn't you hire me? But that's a good way to break the ice. But then you, of course, want to come back kind of to that. Tell me about yourself. I have experience. I can really move the dial for you. All the things that they're looking for is why they should hire you. Now, of course, an interview is not here's the light shining on you and you've got to answer all these questions. You definitely want to be asking questions as well. Here are some good ones. I'm sure you have plenty more you can think of. One that I love is, why is this position vacant? I had somebody who was going in to interview at Sears while Sears was still around, and he asked why the position was vacant. And they said, well, we've hired 3 different people in this role, and they haven't been able to turn us around. He couldn't get out of there fast enough because the expectation was that it would take him 6 months and turn Sears around. He was in sales. It wasn't going to happen. So that just gives you that information of, is it a brand new position that kind of allows you to tailor what your expectations will be. What does the onboarding process look like? I probably, like you, have been in jobs where they have, an exhaustive training process, and other jobs where they're like, here's a key to your office, take care. Here's how you get your phone. So you want to know what that's like. Again, it's not going to be a make or break decision most likely, but it helps you to know what to expect. How will you measure success? Give them a timeline. How will you measure success in this role in 3 months, 6 months, next year? That, again, allows you to know what the expectations are. If you're talking to the person who's going to be overseeing you, it's great to ask what your leadership style is, because then you'll know how they manage and how you might manage within that parameter. And then, of course, if it's anybody, you can say, what do you love about working here? That's great to know. Why are they there? What do they love? And then this last question, and I've bolded it because I think that this is one of the best questions you can ask. I will admit it's a little ballsy, but it is an opportunity for you to get an idea and answer objections. So this comes toward the end. You've had a great conversation, and then you say, they are getting ready to walk out. Is there anything else that you can ask that you have questions about? And then you can say, is there anything that we've discussed here today that would make you feel I would not be a good candidate for this role? Now, obviously, they're not going to say anything that's going to get them into trouble, litigious, or anything like that, but they might say, well, we're really looking for this skill. If you really have that skill, address it. Oh, did I not talk about that? I totally have that. Or if it's something that you don't have, this isn't where you lie. You say, you're 100% right. I don't have that. However, I bring these skills that allow me to overcome that. Or I don't have that certification, but I'm training for it. Whatever it is, answer those objections. So that's that next thing. That's how you get the offer. You answer the objections. You want to make sure you're closing each interview and each person you talk to. By closing, I mean, it's the ABCs, right? Always be closing. We do this in sales. An interview is just a sales call. Close that interview by saying, what are the next steps? I look forward to this. Here are my references. Whatever needs to happen to close it. Follow up. This is the third time I've told you to follow up. Follow up is huge. You need to follow up right away and do it personally to each person you met with. And then, of course, you want to negotiate. After you get an offer, negotiate. Get ready to know what you want to make, what your benefits are. It's not all about pay. Do you want certain days off? Do you want to work hybrid, remote, all of those things? And then have a package ready that you can negotiate with them. Believe it or not, most employers expect people to negotiate, and most individuals do not negotiate. So you're missing an opportunity if you're not having that conversation. And above all, stay positive, stay enthusiastic. It's a game. It's a long game sometimes, but as long as you stay positive, you thank them, even if they say we're not interested in you. Thank you so much for considering me. If anything comes up in the future, enthusiasm goes a long, long way. So my next slide is about me. So I will tell you that I just recently made a transition. And so I am launching a company again. I've had a company in the past, but I was an employee for a couple of years. But I do have my email up. The website is not quite up yet, but the email is up. And I would love to provide a free resume for you, a review for you, rather. And you can email me. It is .co. It is not .com. So Amanda at yourcareeradvocate.co. And then follow me on LinkedIn. I'd be happy to talk with you there and give you some ideas and suggestions and answer any questions that you have. And before I hand it back over, I promised that I would show a before and after. So this is a before. This guy has a great story. He applied to a recruiter who said he's not qualified. And he wasn't qualified in communications. You can see that communications is the first thing he has there. I reworked his resume. This is the after. I did not make anything up. I never make anything up. I reworked it so that communications was top of the thing. It says communications here, talks about it specifically what he was looking for. We also talked about communications in here. He got an interview because of it. So before, not as exciting. You've got all those bullets that I was talking about. People just don't know where to look for this. After, I mean, yes, there's color. It doesn't need to be the excitement, but I'll just go through it super quickly about what I mentioned. Your contact information is up here, a title or headline you're looking for, your summary, why you're so fabulous. Sometimes people will include a nice accomplishment. This was an older position that he had really grown the company, as you can see, 0 to 325. So he wanted to incorporate that. So we pulled that up. Your areas of expertise. And then under your experience, now he had one position that he hadn't been in very long, so he didn't have a lot to share. So I would skip over that one. But these here do have a lot more, an overview of what he did, and then bulleted accomplishments. You can see all these first words: generated, increased, shaved, enhanced, won, reduced. So they really connote there is a result there. He does have numbers in many of them, but sometimes he doesn't. On page 2, you always want to have your contact information. Again, I usually put this in the header on page 2 because ATS can't read headers, but if it gets printed out, a person can. And then it just continues on until about 10 to 15 years, which is what this is. Then you have that additional experience with not much detail because we don't want to enter into that age discrimination game. And then education. This person has 2 degrees, no dates on your education. So those are my notes and thoughts. I'm ready for questions.
Awesome. Well, thank you so very much for that. So much great information. And so I do have a couple of questions already queued up, but if there's anyone else who has a question, do not hesitate to go ahead and post them right now. So to actually touch on a topic that you're just sending about how someone has to print them out. Does the system ATS avoid table and columns? Trevor actually had posted that question, that he's been avoiding tables and columns like that, and the fear that ATS doesn't do well with them. So is that
They
correct?
don't. Yeah, that is correct. So sometimes columns do work in that areas of expertise, those keywords. Sometimes it can work, but where it doesn't work is when you have I've seen some fancy ones and you can get templates all over the place, but some of the fancier ones they look visually appealing, but the column on the left has like your education and all of that stuff. And then the column on the right has your experience. Well, ATS reads left to right. So it's going to be out of order now, especially if you put a header on the left and then information on the right. So I just steer clear of columns just so you don't have to worry about that. A really great way to see an approximation of how your resume looks to ATS is to save the Word or PDF document as a text file, .txt. It'll give you a really close approximation. In fact, that's the first thing I do when I get a resume to review. I look at it that way, and then I know, did it translate correctly? Is it all askew? It's a great way to check and see what ATS is seeing.
Amanda,
Amanda,
that's a really great tip.
I know there's websites or tools you can go and actually put your resume in there to see if it's ATS friendly.
There are, I mean, it's just as easy to do the TXT thing.
Okay.
Yeah, just save it as a text file. And it works with anything. I will tell you, if you use Google though, and you save it as a PDF, it comes out blank. So don't write your resume in Google.
Very interesting. Good tip there. And, they typically pull the information that feeds into the profile. So is the profile that ATS is actually using for rating and ranking candidates more important than the resume itself? Could you put additional experience in the profile for keyword recognition while still keeping that resume to that 1 to 2 page length?
So I've heard people want to do this where I actually had a candidate I was working with and he put, I kid you not, 30 keywords in there because he just wanted to spray and pray. I don't recommend that. It did still fit on 2 pages, believe it or not. But when you apply online, so your resume gets lifted just like it looks. And on the other end, most people see it like that, but the ATS system is scanning it in. So sometimes when you apply online, you can go in yourself to the whatever, ADP or whatever they're using and incorporate more keywords. But I encourage you to just make it your resume right the first time. Usually you're not going to find more than about 12 to 15 keywords that are important in a job description. So it's super easy to incorporate them into the areas of expertise and the summary.
Excellent. Thank you for that. And, still going in line of that 1 to 2 pages, I agree. Someone posted, I was always told 1 page. So really what is, more important, keeping it to maybe just that 1 page, or do you want to actually extend it to 2 pages to add in more information, more keywords and so forth?
If you can get it all on 1 page, more power to you. I've had people that have had a 50-year career, kid you not. We got it all onto 1 page because he really only had 2 positions in the last 10, 15 years. And so it all fit on 1 page, and that was fine. I've also had people who have 5 years of experience who've done a lot of additional things or moved around quite a bit, and they have a 1.5 to 2 page resume. It's totally fine, but just know that 2 things. One, some ATS systems don't parse beyond 2 pages. So you want to make sure that you only have the 2 pages. And then recruiters are typically looking at your first page and about halfway down. So if you have, they look for about, most recruiters, I mean, Evelyn can either back me up or say I'm full of it. But most of the recruiters I've talked to say they look at about 7 to 10 years of experience. Employers typically look a little longer at 10 to 15. It depends on who you're writing it for. Like recruiters I've talked to usually want it in Word, but when you send it to an employer and you apply online, they typically want it in PDF because it keeps the same format. So it's important to kind of keep that knowledge in your head, but you can't please everybody all the time. So if you can get it all on 1 page and send it as a PDF, awesome. If you need 2 pages or 1.5, that's great. What you don't want to have is 1 page and then like 3 lines on the second page. Get it all onto 1 page or expand it longer. What I always tell people and always have is think of your resume as the most expensive real estate you could ever buy. You only want to put valuable stuff on that real estate, right? You don't want to put a ramshackle home on a very expensive plot of land. So you don't want to use fillers. You don't want to use junk that no one cares about. You want to make sure it's super powerful information. If you can share that in 1 page, great. If you need 2 pages, that's great too.
Awesome. Thank you. And then do you have any tips for those who may be applying to jobs in a different country? For example, we have someone who is a neighbor in the north looking to apply for an American job. And so do you have any particular tips for that of how to position themselves better?
Yeah, that's a great question. So of course you want to make sure, I'm guessing Canada is pretty similar, but international CVs, like from people, I look at people from the Middle East all the time in Europe. The international CVs are very different from American style resumes. There are CVs in the US, but we typically keep those just for academia and medical and law. Most people have resumes here. So you want to make sure you're following that. You don't want to have your picture on it. International CVs often have their picture on it. That's a big no-go in the US for resumes. The other thing to keep in mind is looking at the job description to see if they're going to support you for a work visa. I have had some people who will put that right in the top. If they do have the capability to work in the US, put it in your contact information that says, eligible to work in the US. If you don't, then you're going to be looking for sponsorship, and you may want to put that in your contact information as well. because obviously that's a whole different hurdle. But yes, it can definitely be done on the resume and or through those connections and the online application.
Excellent. Thank you for that. And then how would you recommend handling short-term contracts? Would you still include them if they, do you think they would actually enhance the presence, or would it look bad being short-term?
Yeah, and I have had a few people recently I had one guy I'm working with now. He's had 1 year at a bunch of different places. We're actually struggling to get his resume down to 2 pages because he's had 1 year, 1 year, 1 year, 1 year. The first thing that you need to think about is how are you going to structure that? So obviously, if you can, if let me back up. Couple things to think about. One, if it's short term, think about if you take it off, is it going to create a big gap? So if it's just a couple of months here and there, it's probably not. If it was like a year, year and a half, which can be to some people short term, depending on how many jobs you're sharing, then it's going to create a bigger gap to remove it. If it's short term, very short, and it's a contract, could you move those together and say contractor and then have the different positions underneath that? So that's where strategy comes in, that you could definitely incorporate those together so that it looks like contractor, 3 years, and then you list the 3 or 4 different companies that you were a contractor with, and then what you did and what your accomplishments were. So when someone reviews that, they'll go, oh, well, this person's a problem solver, as opposed to, ooh, this person's a job jumper. So that it really gets into the specifics, and it's hard to say as a general rule, but hopefully that helps a little bit. You can remove it, but just consider what the options are.
And then similar to the question of applying outside the location you're currently living in, does ATS review that and kick resumes out based on location? So the question is, if that person's looking to move, should their contact information actually reflect the new city in which they'd be living in and working in, or would they still be showing their current contact information?
That's a great question. If you are looking to move, then putting the city and state of the new place is a good idea, because some companies don't want to pay relocation costs. And if you were given an interview, you'd most likely do an interview either on the phone or video to begin with anyway. And at that point, remember, your resume's only job is to get you an interview. So once you get into the interview, you could say, you know what, I'm currently not living there, but I am considering a move to Seattle or wherever. And so, I would definitely be able to interview with you next week if we can make that happen. So you can do that. A lot of jobs are remote these days or have hybrid opportunities. And if they love you, they might be willing to do something that's, going to be remote or hybrid as well. But if you are looking to move, yes, it definitely is a good idea to put the city where you want to move to.
Beautiful. Well, that are all the questions I have right now. We probably have time for one more question. So if you have one more burning question, feel free just to go ahead and unmute yourself and ask Amanda at this time. Now, everyone's working away at their resumes, apparently. So that's why it's so silent.
Amanda, but thank you. Everything was so relevant and spot on from what I hear from my clients. Especially like at the end of the interview, a lot of my clients will say, they didn't let us know that they're still interested. So I always tell folks, let them know that you're still interested at the end, so they know that. Also, a good way to find out what the next steps are asking them, great, what are next steps? When should I follow up? Then that way you know when to follow up. One thing not to do is to call the HR, or if you have their contact information, email them every day about next steps. I know in the recruitment world, that's a no-no, but ask them, just flat out ask them, when should I follow up? And they'll typically let you know that they're making decisions and best to follow up next week. And then you follow up then. But great stuff, Amanda. Does anyone have any questions? No? Again, I want to thank Amanda again. Thank you so much for a commitment to the AMA Phoenix and for volunteering for a career development committee. If you want more detailed career coaching, please reach out to Amanda. Her information was on the slide. Or reach out to me. Happy to put you in touch with Amanda. And so I wanted to go over what's next with AMA Phoenix. We have 2 great events coming up. One is next Thursday. It's an in-person event. So talk about networking, guys. This is your place that you want to network. We have a panel of marketing experts, and they're talking about marketing musts for 2024. It's at 5 o'clock. I think it starts, there's a little bit of networking in the beginning, but I think it starts promptly at 5:30. So make sure to register for that, especially since we're getting a lot of interest for it. You want to save your spot. And then we have another event on February 15th. It's a webinar event, and it's on buying under the influence. So make sure you register for that too. I do want to put a plug in for our annual Spectrum Awards that's going to be held this May. And Trevor, are you still on there? Do you want to say anything about Spectrum? Trevor is our Spectrum chair this year. Oh, you're on.
Sorry, I am on mute. Yes. So as you can see from my background, May 2024, Kaleidoscope of Marketing Spectrum Awards. We are looking forward to having people submit for probably about 40 different categories we'll have available. So whether you're in, copy, design, video, digital, strategy, whatever it is, we are going to have a category. We are also expected to have a couple of AI categories this year. So if you have been doing any generative media, again, whether it's design or copy or something else, keep an eye out. We're going to have a lot of awesome opportunities for you to submit. Just keep an eye on the AMA Phoenix website, and we will put it out in the social media as well.
Great. Thanks, Trevor. Also, the slides to this, we'll send that via email along with the survey. If you can please fill that out. It really does help our board, our programming committee know what you guys are looking for. Also want to thank our sponsors. First of all, Financial Potion, Taylor Wellman, who's on this call. Thank you. We couldn't do this without her. So if your company is looking for any video marketing help with marketing campaigns, please contact them. Also, another sponsor, I don't know if she's still on here, Elise Flinmeyer with Prism Global Marketing Solutions. If you're looking for any inbound marketing assistance, they're a HubSpot Platinum partner as well. They provide strategic online and inbound marketing implementation. So reach out to them. And then my company, Staffing Strong, we work with companies across the US and Canada to place people either on a direct hire basis or contract basis. So if you're looking for people or you're looking to make a career move and need some career advice, please reach out to us. If you want to volunteer, please let us know. We're always looking for great volunteers for our organization. I always tell people, if you want to get the best out of AMA, is to get involved. We have a lot of different volunteers positions right now for Spectrum Awards. But if you want to volunteer, please reach out to me. And I do want to recognize Trevor Stasek, who's on the call. He is our Volunteer of the Month for January. Thanks so much for your dedication and support, Trevor, to the board. I think that's it, everybody. Thanks for joining us. Hope you have a great week and hope to see you next Thursday at our event.